What is going on? It's Alex coming back at you with another video, and today we're going to be beginning our 3-round 2025 NFL mock draft with trades. Just like the NFL draft, this is going to be split up into 2 different days. Day 1 today is round 1. Day 2 tomorrow is rounds 2 and 3. Because I like to be able to do this live with y'all and enjoy it. But if you are new, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. We are on the fastest growth ever. And actually, while I'm recording this, we are most likely hitting 15K. So you guys are absolutely amazing. I love you. Thank you again. It's been awesome seeing this growth. And I hope that this just continues because it's going to be a great offseason. It's going to be a great draft season. It's going to be great going to the next year as well. Super excited for that. For those of y'all who are wondering what my jersey is, it is Juju Smith-Schuster from USC. Had to get it. It was sick. But below my face is my board. It is going to be very unique, but I don't do it just to be unique. I do it to be fully transparent. I back it up with all 22 clips over on my X page, which is easy to get through that link tree, English stuff, as well as being able to check out our sponsor, UnderDog Fantasy. And they treat me really well. If you want some extra skin in the game, you just got to put $10 down and you get a 50% deposit match of up to $1,000 in bonus cash. So feel free to do that. It sends me $60 as well. But on top of that, it's honestly really fun, especially for the Super Bowl, to be able to have a little bit more in the game and be able to have a bit of fun. I'm redoing round number 1. I posted it yesterday because I was under the strong assumption that my number 4 player on my board, Benjamin Morrison, was returning to school. And he ended up declaring. So I think it's actually going to shift up things a lot. I hope you guys are excited for it. As kind of repaying you guys for kind of messing up, air quotes, messing up that mock draft, I actually dropped an 88-minute top 22 tackles video that you guys get to watch right now. I break down my exact thoughts. I break down a game of each player. And so you guys get to see exactly what I think and why. So full transparency there. Go enjoy that if you guys have some time to burn or just very curious about the class. Let's get into this. Let's have a great time. Starting with the number 1 overall pick with the Tennessee Titans. Your assistant general manager said, we are going to be focusing on a generational player if they are there at 1. Unfortunately, I think that there is a clear number 1 player for those of y'all who want a quarterback. There's a clear player who everyone seems to have this inclination that he is a generational player. I think that you won't find a player like Travis Hunter within a generation. That's very true. And an NFL generation is about 5 to 8 to 12 years, depending on what your timeline is. I think it's 8 to 12. So have we seen a player like Travis Hunter in the past 8 to 12? I don't think so. That doesn't mean that he's better than everyone else, but it does mean that he is unique. You will not find another one. And he's a very, very good player. Do not get me wrong. He is a blue chip player for me now. I love his zone IQ. I love his ball skills. This dude has the it factor to him. So I think that in respecting what the GM ended up saying, the new GM, former AGM of the Kansas City Chiefs, he was like, yo, this is the guy that we're probably going to go with, right? He ended up pretty much hinting at that. We're going to go Travis Hunter. He did end up describing what he was looking for in a quarterback, and it did kind of sound a little bit like Cam Ward. At the same time, you don't really need to have too much of a smokescreen. I think that was far more telling that they're going to say, hey, we're going to get the best player in our opinion, or the most irreplicable, there we go, English is tough, player at number 1, and that's going to be Travis Hunter. So we're going to see how the board falls, and we'll see how everything goes. But at number 2 overall for the Cleveland Browns, I've been, thinking, is there a way for a team like the Raiders to move up or Cam Ward? There is. But at the same time, when you bring Pete Carroll on, I think that the whole entire point of this is to be able to bring stability to the organization. The easiest way to lose stability is to trade away your primary draft assets and then end up getting a quarterback that I don't think Pete, we'll have to see what the offensive coordinator is going to be. I don't know if Pete is necessarily going to be able to coach up the next generation, the heir to be able to have Cam Ward be successful in the short run. So I also think that with Tom Brady's influence on the organization, no, he has not ever been in management. He's never selected quarterbacks, but I do think his opinion on quarterbacks will heavily matter. And the cost to move up to select Cam Ward, it's debatable, but I also think the Cleveland Browns are in a spot where you have to go after the best player available as well. And that to me is Abdul Carter. And Abdul might be number 10 on my board, but that's for one primary reason, and that's because he's not an elite run defender. I think that overall, he's a fantastic player. I think he is the best pass rusher in the class. I think if you are looking for a pass rusher, he is worth the number 2 overall pick. But I think we also can agree that might not be the most elite run defender. And so, if you're looking at it from a holistic edge point of view where you value run defense, probably not going to have Abdul as your number 2 guy. But if you have Isaiah McGuire to be able to pair up with Abdul Carter, you no longer have that issue. So I am perfectly happy with this. We're going to send it through with Abdul Carter. I think the goal for the Browns probably is to continue getting pieces until they actually get to snipe a top quarterback in 2026. I'd prefer to continue adding Abdul Carter and then potentially Arch Manning or, a fully developed Garrett Nussmeier over going after Cam Ward there at number 2. At number 3 for the Giants, I was talking about this self-preservation move, super duper key. The best way to be able to get the job done is to get a quarterback. Now, people have said, hey, what if they bring in Sam Darnold in the offseason? I don't think that Sam Darnold, since he's already proven to be, adequate, you now have an expectation that you're going to get wins. That could make you get fired even quicker if you are not seeing that success. I'm just going to be so real with y'all. So the easiest way, because I'm trying to blend some realism in here, right? I mean, I don't want to waste y'all's time. I want you to understand, hey, this is actually relatively logical. I want to give you my reasoning here. And Joe Shane, Brian Daboll on the hot seat. Like, really hot seat. Like, that seat is low-key melting kind of hot seat. So the best way to do it is to be able to get short-term success. Could you do that with Sam Darnold? Yes. But again, there is that level of expectation. Can you do it with Russ? I don't know. I mean, as a Steelers fan, the defense carried us heavy, and I don't think your defense is at a Pittsburgh level. So I would honestly cancel those out if you're sitting there, you're Joe Shane, and you're saying, hey, what gets my job the most security? Or if I'm Brian Daboll, what gives my job the most security? It is, hey, we have really good draft classes, and now, with Josh Allen, you saw somebody who had great arm talent that we continue to polish, and Brian Daboll brought him to success. We're going to do the same thing with Cam Ward. And it kind of makes sense. Cam Ward's a really good fit there for New York, has the big splash plays. You're going to let Malik Neighbors be one of your primary targets. Xavier Restrepo in round number 3 would be awesome as well to continue adding pieces there. And then, I know Wan'Dale's there. But regardless, the vision is there is a clear path to success with Cam Ward that you can argue, if you're Joe Shane and Brian Daboll, doing a self-preservation move could be something that could extend their jobs longer. And I'm not saying like they're that horrible of people. They're awesome, honestly. Like, I got to be standing next to Brian Daboll literally a year ago in Mobile. But I think that you have to understand there's a human aspect to this. And when guys have their jobs on the line and they may say, hey, we still do need a quarterback. It's not like we're absolutely tanking our organization. You're taking a player that can help not only the organization, but yourself. And I think that's where the logic ends up coming to the precipice there. At number 4 for the New England Patriots, someone made an excellent point. Because I took Tetron McMillan yesterday, and, I do think wide receiver needs to be a target for the Patriots. But with Vrabel coming in the building, Josh McDaniels is there, but, the Patriots organization, even with Elliott Wolf, don't take wide receiver in the first, right? And this is a class where you can take one in the second. I feel like Jaden Higgins wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility there at 38. So I do want to potentially look at some other positions. Now, you got Mason Graham here with Barmore, not necessarily reliable health-wise. I think you could absolutely be looking at him as a game-changing defensive interior. Of course, defensive interior isn't the most valuable position either, unless you're looking at another team that drafted a white, good pass-rushing defensive interior in the Rams and are like, maybe he should have been picked a lot higher. I do think Will Johnson could be viewed as the right guy. Again, injury history has popped up with Will Johnson, unfortunately. But, I think this is just the perfect opportunity to try to trade down if you can. And, you could also, of course, target that offensive line. But I'm trying to think through the eyes of the organization, what they're going to try to prioritize. And, weaponry is awesome. Ashton Genty, a dark horse pick. But is there a team that'd be willing to move up here? Technically speaking, Shedeur is on the board, but we cannot. Do you think Shedeur is the 4th best player in the class? If your answer is yes, then it makes sense. For me, my answer is no. Technically, Cam Ward's not my 3rd best player in the class, but again, I didn't move up to acquire him, and there's a clear vision for success with the coaching and with the overall organization, what they're looking for in a quarterback. For the Raiders, you can stay put and get Jackson Dart in 2nd, 3rd, maybe even later rounds, depending at how much trust these teams have in these quarterbacks. Because, Spencer Rattler fell to the 5th round. Would you rather go after like Shedeur, or would you rather go after, someone like Spencer's value there in the 5th and be able to build up your team with the highest end of talents? That's a legitimate question. Now, Mason Graham, is there any team that might want to jump up? You can talk about the Jets. Again, it's a new organization with a new coach, not going to want to give up a ton of your picks. Like, it's a tough position to be in. But the offensive tackles, as much as I want to take him. And I love Josh Connerly. Josh Connerly's not going to be viewed probably by Vrabel as all that great because he is 6'4", 315. When I think of a tackle for Vrabel, I do think of someone who has a little bit more size, a little bit more mass, and being able to be 6'4", 315, not necessarily going to be the case as much as I love Josh Connerly. I don't think he'll be a top 4 pick. But if the Patriots sitting here, I think a realistic move is Mason Graham or Will Johnson. Will Johnson going to be that corner too, because we've been taking Travis Hunter to the Patriots all the time when they're at number 1, and no one had an issue. I guess some people had an issue with it, but you have to go after the best player available. And Mason Graham could be great. Will Johnson could be great. The question is, which one do you value more? And I do think defensive interior does kind of get the short end of the stick when it comes to the value. And it's a very, very, very good defensive interior class. The corner class is good, but not nearly as talented with the value of Will Johnson here that you could get at 38 or even 69. We're going to go Will Johnson there at pick number 4. The best player in the class. And I do see some more people getting on board with that. But yeah, you do need wide receiver. You also have to realize, similar to how I don't draft offensive line for the Dolphins in the first, even though they need it, they just aren't really a team that has necessarily done it. But I didn't see anybody willing to spend as much capital to move up to 4 as what I'd like. So ended up electing to go Will Johnson there. And number 5 for the Jaguars. You're going to have a new offensive coach. That's going to be sick. But at the same time, I do have, I'm glad that Balky's gone. That was so funny. I'm just like, dude, get Balky out of the building. Like, this guy's ruining everything. And then he kind of did almost ruin everything. And then Khan's like, out. So thank God he finally had the balls to do that. I think that the most logical pick here would be Mason Graham. You could throw a curveball and go Tetro McMillan right here to be your Mike Evans, Liam Cohen. I'm just saying that we could throw that curveball in this one because that is a very translatable role that has had success. I know Tetro is a little bit on the lighter side compared to him, but I do think that the vision for that offense is the same. So, you know what? Let me know what you think about it. I'm actually going to deploy it on this one. And let's get into it. Let's go. Tetro McMillan there at number 5 because we're going to have Liam Cohen be able to use him in the exact way that he wants to. And now you have a 2-headed monster there in your receiving core. I would have taken Tetro McMillan at number 6. But at number 6, you got the Vegas Raiders and Pete Carroll's in the building. You guys are on a good track. If you guys want some organizational stability. Again, I don't really think that you guys are necessarily... you could get your Marshawn Lynch here with Ashton Genty. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibility. Ashton Genty's been comped high-end to Marshawn Lynch, and Pete Carroll kind of knows a thing or two about Marshawn Lynch. I think it would be a great move. But at the same time, I also know that Pete Carroll likes his defense. And Mason Graham, he can pair up and just do an absolute savage job there and actually kick some ass. But I do have a team that I think might be willing to make a small move up here. It's just a small move up. It's the Panthers. I've done it before, and I know the Panthers fans, they're like, oh man, we need all the picks we can get. And trust me, brother, this is not an expensive trade. In my opinion, I'm perfectly happy doing this right here. And if I'm the Raiders, I'm happy with that too. I got 3 third-round picks. I'm still going to get whatever the hell I want at number 8. But let's also think about it through the lens of the Raiders. I'm moving down to select the same guy, Ashton Genty. I personally am going to be super happy with that. So that's why I'm going to go and make this trade. A 3rd rounder and a 4th to move up a couple spots. Again, you have so many of these picks that you could reorganize in order to move back up. And if you really are that butthurt, you could go and do 140. Relatively speaking, I actually think 140 might be a more realistic move. But regardless, for the Raiders, it's not going to actually truly affect the mock draft to a notable degree. You could end up, tossing something in there. I'll do this one. We'll do it. We may even toss in 229, but no. We'll do that. We'll go 140, 74, 8 to the Raiders. You're getting the same players, so those are free picks, right? It's free real estate. So, number 6, we got the Panthers who moved up. Gave very, very minimal draft capital. Again, I really want to emphasize that. You still have 2 4th-round picks. You guys are doing just fine. We're going to go Mason Graham here and add him to that strong defensive front, jumping the New York Jets, which I've been giving the Jets a lot of love. A lot of love. You guys have gotten, whether it's Mason Graham Will Johnson. You're getting some of the best players in the class. But now we're at an interesting spot. And I think that Josh Simmons is the guy who I'm probably honing in on at this point. But is there a player that is worth moving up for other teams? You got Ben Morrison finally available. Actually, Ben Morrison might be the guy who I go after here. And there's a reason he ended up declaring. He ended up being out for the majority of the year with a hip injury. But this dude was a top 5 pick coming into the year. He's super young. He's not even 21 yet, for Christ's sake. He's 6 foot 190, and he's able to handle the best of the best. Like, he was the one to be one-on-one with Marvin Harrison Jr. for a lot of reps and did a really good job, in my opinion. This guy is an absolute stud. I really do believe it. He's my number 4 player in the class. Again, we'll have to see how the medicals check out, but a corner 2 is a need on this team. Again, I would try to look to potentially move out here. You do have Shedeur Sanders as well that you can try to get, but I do think that we want to test the theory of potentially moving down. But regardless, you know what? I actually feel really happy with this. I really like this one. I haven't given love to Ben Morrison enough yet. And this dude is he's been my corner 2 by a good margin for this whole year. And it's about damn time that I can actually show him the love he deserves. We're going to go Ben Morrison here at number 7 overall. Again, this is someone who takes on the number 1 wide receiver for multiple years on end. This 54.6, I actually ended up watching that game. I really loved it. He did a fantastic job. So I'm super excited for him to go and join Sauce Gardner there to replace Reed. Again, don't sleep on the name just because I haven't been taking him. It's because I thought he was worth a top 3 pick. Like, I was saying, hey, you go back to school, you are a guaranteed top 5 pick. This dude's a guaranteed top 15 selection, and it's time that I show the love that he deserves. Vegas Raiders, I traded back for Ashton Genty, but Shedeur's still here. I think there's a certain point where you got to realize that you got to pull the trigger. So we're going to go Shedeur Sanders. Again, I wanted to move back for Ashton, but like thinking about it, it's the right move. You got your extra picks and you still get Shedeur. I am perfectly happy with that. High floor player. Again, you can talk about him for the Jets there, but at the same time, the Jets, like, you don't necessarily, like, you'll go after, with your defensive coach and Aaron Glenn, Ben Morrison before you go after Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion. I'd prefer to, go and test out other options before and then be able to get a top option there in Ben Morrison. But the Raiders move down and still get Shedeur Sanders, which I think is not unrealistic. Again, we're just so conditioned to believe these guys are the top selections. There is no guarantee of that. We have been humbled several times before. And of course, there have been times where we have tried to overcompensate and then last year happened. But last year, these quarterbacks were a lot better than this year's. I think that's fair to say. So at number 8, I think that's where teams might start feeling a bit more comfortable, especially if you get that extra 3rd and 4th/5th round pick. At number 9, we have the New Orleans Saints. And for the Saints, I've talked about going Josh Simmons. I've talked about going Tyler Warren. Like, there's a lot of routes that you can go here. And honestly, like, you can't really go wrong. I think that the vision for the team would be for someone like Josh Simmons. And he's played right tackle before. Granted, it was at San Diego State before he really started polishing. So yeah, he ended up having a poor year there. But he really took strides. I think that he's arguably the best tackle in the class. Ended up declaring like he's a really, really good player. And you guys need offensive line help. Wide receiver would have been nice. If Tetro McMillan were available, I would take him in a heartbeat. I have a great edit of him to be able to put on the thumbnail. You bet your ass. I'm going to take every opportunity for that. But defensive interior is not available. Like, the weapons aren't available. You're not going to go Ashton Genty. I'm not going to go Malachi Starks at this point. I think the best move for us is to go Josh Simmons. And because, again, right tackle experience, Trevor Penning, get him out of there. But also, he's very similar to Tali Fuaga in terms of the smooth athlete, has good leg drive, and is just overall a polished blocker. Maybe he's not the road grader that you're looking for with Tali Fuaga's build, but I mean, I'm perfectly happy having a 6'5", 310-pound experienced player at both right and left tackle who is very, very polished. At number 10 for the Chicago Bears, I love to go Josh Connerly here. I love it. But let's also test out a different theory. And again, you could talk about, hey, at 39, we could end up getting, like, my dream for this team is to be able to go get Josh Simmons at 10, be able to go at 39, go like Tyleik Williams or Princey Umanmielen because obviously he has good connection with Gervin Dexter. And then at like 41, trade back and get Quinshon Judkins. And then you can end up getting an extra pick or two, end up using that to move up from 72 and end up getting Travion Henderson. Like that's the biggest vision of all, but there's too many moving parts there. So is Ashton Genty or James Pierce for me at this point? And I think edge is just so valuable down the board. Same thing with running back, but there is a difference with a game-changing running back like Ashton Genty who could complement DeAndre Swift's one-cut ability that I think Ben Johnson is going to love. I think Ben Johnson is going to love it. And right here, sitting at 12, there is a team that absolutely would be in the mood for Ashton Genty. So I'm not going to stop him I'm not going to allow the Cowboys to get it. Because if I'm Ben Johnson, it is a very realistic possibility that Ashton Genty, with the season he's had, and before you try to say running back class is deep, it is deep. It's a very good class. But look at where the running backs like Ashton Genty have gone before. You look at Jahmyr Gibbs, almost selected at number one, that would have been fucking nuts. At number 6 overall. Like they're Aaron Glenn and the whole entire squad there, Dan Campbell, they're all like twiddling their fingers, being like, man, are we gonna get Jahmyr? Like we can't, like we gotta trade back, and like now we're gonna potentially, or why did I say with the Jets? But with the Lions, it's like they're afraid at number 6 to potentially lose him by moving back to 12, right? And they celebrated. It was like kumbaya to them. So I certainly do believe that, first off, that's an organization that Ben was a part of. But then on top of that, you look at Bijan Robinson, who was looked at in a very similar light to Ashton Genty, almost a nearly unstoppable running back. And Bijan's one of the top backs in the NFL. Yes, they had completed offensive lines, but we also have all these picks. So keep that in mind as well. We're going to go Ashton Genty here at number 10. Number 11, we have the San Francisco 49ers. We're going to be going after potentially the offensive line. I ended up going after Tyler Warren at number 11. I think that's a certainly realistic possibility, right? But I do think the Niners, you guys ended up bringing it up well. You guys are a team that could end up, pushing that need a little bit down the board and ending up getting it at 75 or 99. And because this is a good tight end class too, right? You can end up being able to potentially have 43 even sniping Harold Fannin, but I don't really think that lines up with what you're looking for. But Luke Lachey, if you really want to go all the way down the board, you could go after Mitchell Evans, who ended up actually having a pretty solid national championship game, in my opinion. There are weapons for you to acquire. Elijah Arroyo, who's not even listed on PFF. There's a lot of really good players. So at number 11, let's go back to the good old reliable, and let's go offensive line. And we're going to go Josh Connerly Jr. here, who is going to be my number 7 overall player in the entire class. His anchor initially could be a little bit on the flux, right? It goes up, it fluctuates, it goes up, it goes down. But he does have arguably the best re-anchor in the class. So if you start driving him back, he can plant his feet unbelievably well. JT Tuimoloau lifted this dude off the ground. Like this dude was levitating and ended up still somehow re-anchoring when he got back to the ground. That is incredible. Worst case scenario, you can put him at guard if you need to. Like that's the worst case scenario. But there's a lot of people who are now on the Josh Connerly hype train, including myself. But Connor Rogers and a couple others that I really respect. Matt Miller as well, who loves him to death. And I am super duper happy to send him to San Fran. He's mobile. He's powerful. He's young. He's ridiculous, man. I mean, he's 21.2 years old. He's also somebody who literally was a running back his true freshman year of high school. That is insane. So yes, the movement skills are there. And I really, really like how Josh Connerly has progressed. At number 12 for the Dallas Cowboys. A lot of good picks here, by the way. I mean, technically speaking, we got James Pierce here. This is a prime opportunity for a potential move up by a team who really, really likes him. But also you got Tyler Warren here. It's honestly an interesting spot because you also have Malachi Starks. There's so many differing talents that I don't know who would want to trade up because the opportunity cost of losing James Pierce is, Jalen Walker. Not for most people. I see it as a bigger drop-off than others. But for most people, that's like, wow. I mean, I'll accept that. John Campbell, like, I'll accept that, right? Especially for the cost of maybe potentially a 3rd or even a 2nd-round pick, depending on the range. So there is a big concern there. Now, with the tight end group, I don't think there's enough competition in this range. Like, I don't think the Broncos are going to get 2 balls to the wall and move up for Tyler Warren. That's just so expensive. So you might be actually boxed in here if you're Dallas and say, okay, how do we make the most out of this? You could try to say, hey, Indy, you want to jump up for Malachi Starks? It's what I did in yesterday's mock draft. Like, I think that's very possible. I definitely see that the Dolphins are in prime position to jump and take Malachi Starks, but at the same time, if you lose out on Malachi, you end up getting Tyler Warren. And there's some good safeties like Xavier Watson I liked in the second. So I'm not really threatened by that. That's the problem. That's why I'm saying, hey, you could see the Cardinals. I mean, the Cardinals are a great team that can make a move up here. The Buccaneers as well, but the Buccaneers are pick strapped. The Cardinals, Monty is that type of dude to be able to move up and down the board. Let's look at their draft capital really quick. Monty's not going to fuck with that. I'm just going to be real with you. He's not going to mess with that. That's a lot of draft capital you have to give up. That's going to be that third round pick. And, feel free, Cardinals fans. Tell me I'm wrong. But that's, I feel like pick 14 would have been the spot where I would have felt more comfortable doing that. Or at least pick 13, we can start discussing it. So, regardless, all in all, we're going to stick and pick with the Cowboys. And this is something that I don't understand why people don't appreciate Omari and Hampton more. Yes, in the second round, you can end up getting Trey Henderson. You can get Quinshon Judkins. You can get Devin Neal. You can get Caleb Johnson. You can get Cam Scatterbo. But there's a clear top 2 backs in this class. And there's a clear vision for the Cowboys. Being able to have your top tier running back, I think matters more than anything. People will talk about Luther Burden. I think that he's going to be limited in terms of his role. It's going to be a great role for the right team, but I just don't think he accomplishes much. I think the player who would have the biggest impact out of the receiving crew would be Matt Golden. Super young, great overall athleticism. He was a burner at Houston, so he likes Texas. It makes sense, but I'm not taking him at 12. I'm taking the best player available, and that best player available is Omari and Hampton, and it's going to piss so many people off. And I love y'all, but I'm willing to piss you off for this. Marion Hampton is somebody who I think has had the craziest growth I've ever seen from a player. Really started, his vision improved tenfold. The moment Drake May wasn't there, this guy just took it through the roof. And people are even saying, I'm seeing a lot of people starting to get on the Omarion Hampton might be better than Ashton Genty train. If that's the case, and we're saying, hey, backs like Ashton Genty go in this range, we can't disagree that Omarion Hampton couldn't. And I really think that his breakaway speed, his downfield vision is going to be what sets him apart. That's going to piss some people off. I already hear it in the comment section. But at number 13 for the Miami Dolphins, again, potentially, I actually might move back here. Again, Monty is not the type to want to spend those picks to move up, but I might be happy doing it. Of course, again, opportunity cost is that Jalen Walker sitting there. I feel like that's something that they're willing to say. I'd rather have Jalen Walker in a third-round pick than James Pierce. Other teams that might want to move up, I would say Buccaneers, but again, Buccaneers are pick-strapped. Dolphins also aren't really in the need to be able to move up and do something like that. By the way, PFF adjusted their comp pick. That's very interesting. I don't see, technically speaking, the Bills could get ballsy and try to move up for James Pierce. I just don't see the return on investment there. Bottom line, I'm going to be happy and stick and pick with Malachi Starks. Poyer and Holland both up for a contract. And Malachi Starks is a Swiss Army knife. I really like him. And he had struggles being one-on-one versus Matt Golden. And Matt Golden, I would say, probably someone you don't want to put a potentially limited athlete, now Malachi Starks, in one-on-one coverage. That's kind of Georgia's problem, not Malachi Starks. Number 14 for the Indianapolis Colts. Let's not mess around here. It's Tyler Warren all day. The best way to help out your quarterback is get a good line. Then it's to get a reliable tight end. By the way, you guys are probably wondering what jersey I'm wearing. I'm wearing a Juju Smith-Schuster jersey today. I like to wear a different jersey on every video. But let's continue on here. At number 15, we got the Atlanta Falcons. And James Pierce Jr. is here. Let's be real. That's the right move. But with 4 picks, you might want to be able to trade. Let's see. Let's at least feel out the options. Because if I could trade back and get a ton of picks and get Michael Williams, you bet your ass I'm going to do that. A team I'm actually looking at right now could be the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks, I love them trading up for defensive pieces. I know that they technically could use more offensive line than defensive pieces, but you look at James Pierce Jr. here, you don't necessarily need a pure edge like that, but man, you deplete the Cardinals. That would be cool. I'm not going to trade with the Buccaneers because that just doesn't make any sense. But again, it is possible. It's just a weird spot to be in. The Bengals don't move up. That's just a thing they do not do. So you're in an interesting spot here. And I don't know. Like, could you just say, hey, I have multiple offers on the table, try to get a deal with the Cardinals? Again, what's the cost of moving up is probably like a 5th round pick, just from 15 to 16. There's no real reason for that. But you could just be a massive dick if you're going to be the Seahawks. That'd be kind of cool. Let's see. Can we be a douchebag with the Seahawks? We have the picks to be a douche. We do. It would take 82, but technically speaking, because we need so many picks, I'd be happy with 185 and 136. And for Seattle, the vision is you're getting one of the best players in the class at an edge position that is extremely expensive. So you're creating a long-term vision there with Mafe, etc. And you're having somebody who could also play some in coverage reps too, which I think is really, really fun. And you're giving the Falcons the ability to move back and still select a player that's great for them at 18, because I think they're going to be running more of a standard 4-3 with Ulbrich. So don't really think you really need to go after James Pierce's build. So we're not losing out on anything by doing this. We're going to be moving up with the Seahawks to be the biggest douche nozzles in the world and select James Pierce Jr. here. I think James Pierce Jr. is just so fantastic. I think that his value is incredible. My Cardinals fans always get shellacked and they always get grouchy when I end up selecting James Pierce before him. So I already know they're going to be in the comments section getting mad. But regardless, I think it makes my decision a little bit easier here. I think that Jalen Walker is a far inferior edge rusher to James Pierce. Granted, he's had far less time at edge rusher. I also think that he is an edge 2 in the NFL. That's just how much I love James Pierce Jr. But I also think he's a quality linebacker. And I think that, based on the talent that's available, I'd be happy selecting Jalen Walker here. But I would say James Pierce would be the much better pick, much more impactful pick for Arizona. But Jalen Walker, I will accept it. And again, the Seahawks ended up having to give up a 4th as well as a 5th round pick. Might have been an early 6th, but let's just say a 5th comp pick in order to move up and be able to choose which evil they ended up facing. At number 17, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. And I always loved going after offensive line for them. But let's potentially look at a couple other options here. Wide receiver, Luther Burden is reasonable. I also think that the defensive line is also reasonable. I think you could go after Tyleik Williams here, and you can end up having a lot of success right there. You could also go after edge, but I also feel very comfortable with that in round number 2. I do think offensive line is probably your best move. Like, there's not many other moves I would prefer here. Now, your new defensive coordinator is from Notre Dame. So if Ben Morrison's here, you take him. I'm not taking Xavier Watts in the first round. That's a me thing. I think he's very good, but I think that's something that we could target at 49. So is there any team that would potentially want to trade up here as well? Because I'm curious to see what we could end up doing here, because I think Tyleik might be the best choice for this team at the moment, given what will potentially be available at 49. And the guards are sucky. So I'm thinking Will Campbell would be a really fun pick, But I also know that we could end up, being perfectly fine taking a guard even at 81 with the way this tackle class is projected to guard. So I'm happy overall with the situation. I do think a dark horse pick is a Luther Burden or a Mecca Ibuka, but I think if we have to stick and pick, because I don't see anybody really calling up, I'm gonna say Tyleik Williams provides the highest ceiling, because he is someone who played in Ohio State. He knows how to play in the climate, but 2, he's extremely strong and a great block shedder, which means that he's just not polished as a pass rusher. That's something that could easily happen within one offseason with good coaching. And so I'm going to go after Tyleik Williams here out of the Ohio State University, which is, funnily enough, the team that ended up just beating Notre Dame. But, it's okay. At number 18, got the Atlanta Falcons, and I'm going to go probably Michael Williams here. I could try to do a second trade back, be able to get even more draft capital, because, again, we're still pretty light, right? We're still very light. And the question is, who would trade up for whom? I just don't see the talent here as one that would be something that gets people to move up. I love Braden Swinson to death. I ain't trading up for him unless, I'm batshit crazy, because he's just not going to go in this range. There's no reason to pay to move up when you could get him for not paying to move up. That's just the real, that's just being real right there. But I do want to say it is an interesting debate. Michael Williams or Jihad Campbell. Because Jihad, that's going to be my pick. That's next. That, I know it. But also, so would Michael. which evil would you want to face? I'd rather, like, I have Jihad higher, but I also have him higher because of a position that I don't think the NFL will use him as highly and or as often as I think they should, which is a full-time edge rusher. So I'm going to go Mykel Williams and roll the dice and see if the Buccaneers can use him properly. So I ended up telegraphing exactly what I do here. We're going Jihad Campbell for the Buccaneers, who is the #1 edge in his high school class. I think he's going to be great. And the fact is, you can use him as a linebacker as well, and he's going to be very, very good. At number 20, we have the Denver Broncos. And I love Luther Burden to this team. You could absolutely argue Colston Loveland. But I also trust this team could potentially get someone like Harold Fannin at 52. I think that's kind of more of a home run hit than anything. And usually I have Amari and Hampton available at this point. I'm happily taking him in a spot where I think he should go. Like, he should be going in that range. So what I'm looking at is replacing Mims's role. I think Marvin Mims should be a deep threat. He should not be the guy to catch a bubble screen and then try to make do in short space. That is Luther Burden's role to a T. He's somebody that catches the ball. He's like a better version of Malachi Corley. I mean, very similar weight. Super young. Like, he's kind of built for just getting fed a ton. And he also complements, technically, if you're going to want to take Tez Johnson as well, because he's low-key like a brother there to Bo Nix. You can go Luther Burden, Tez Johnson, as well as potentially like Cortland Sutton for the future. But even if you want to say Devon Bell improves to a point where he can start, Troy Franklin obviously is in the mix, but I'd want a bigger possession receiver. I can see that being a really nice trio. And so I like the vision there. I think that's where I am going to put my faith in. And so we're going to go after Luther Burden, because I remember in the playoffs seeing Marvin Mims take a bubble screen, and I'm like, that is Luther Burden's play. That is not your play, Marvin. Like, go deep. Like, when he was a rookie, he ended up popping off because this dude like got an absolute rainbow ball from Russell Wilson down like super deep, and I'm like, that is the role that you're supposed to play. Luther Burden, threaten him in the short range. Marvin, threaten him over the long range. So Luther Burden going to be my selection there. At 21 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, we got some really good players slipping here. Just like the most recent mocks, Will Campbell might be looked down upon because of his hip flexibility. A lot of people are worried about that. His stance is a little bit worrisome. So it is not unrealistic that Will Campbell could be available at this spot. I'll put that out there. Matt Golden is a dark horse pick for my Steelers here. I would love Ben Morrison, but I literally took him at 7 overall. So tough shit, right? We got Mike Green as well. A lot of very good players. A lot of very, very good players. Colston Loveland as well. Is there a team that's looking for a tight end? You could look at the Rams to move up out of spite, but they don't have a lot of picks either. Like, not going to move up with Philly. Don't think that that's reasonable. But you know what? I know people are going to get so mad because they always say I fuck over my own team, the Steelers. But speaking of Juju, out of the honor for Juju, we could move up with the Chiefs, because I think that there's just so much. It is just such a fun curveball to go after Colston Loveland. And this team's offense really likes to use that position. So, I mean, this is going to be a Travis Kelce heir apparent. I know you just paid Gray, but for the price of 66, I think that would be requisite for this. I'd be happy. I'm the Steelers. I get that second round pick. And I don't know if I did this before. I think I did it with the Bills. But I think 66 is requisite, honestly. Like, we could end up giving like 225 in return just so they end up having something to bolster the back end. But like, we'll do it. Because I think the Chiefs, jumping your own in-division rival as well, let me put that out there, to select Colston Loveland, talk about like giving the biggest middle finger to Harbaugh possible. Now he's going to be able to bounce back because there's some good-ass players still on the board. But it's great for the Chiefs, and it's also weakening one of your division rivals who is up and coming. So, 22, Chargers. I would like to potentially go actually, and offensive line, super key to address. Super key. Will Campbell will be fantastic here. I do think there's a chance that we go elsewhere. But this is also the team that took Joe Alton the first, who was kind of being more that consistent player, played high-level competition, did a great job. I think Will Campbell could be very similar in that aspect. Like, played high-level competition in the SEC. Super consistent. So I think actually I was going to go, so just for transparency, I was going to go Matt Golden. But looking at what the past draft showed. You guys like scrappers. You guys like somebody who will be solid mover as well. We're going to go Will Campbell, and we're going to push him to guard. I just think that that's something that you guys would be valuing, like just based on the Joe Alt pick. Will Campbell is kind of this year's Joe Alt, but tiers worse. But at 22, you're getting him for tiers less. At number 23 for the Green Bay Packers, some great players on the board. Mike Green would be really fun there with Jeff Hafley playing in that Donovan Azurewaku role that he had at Boston College. But I will say, you guys brought this up, and you guys did a great job of doing this, and I think I'll absolutely do it in the second round. Wide receiver. Christian Watson probably going to miss part of next year. Wide receiver is a legit issue. Is this like the first year that they end up drafting a wide receiver at this rate? That's possible. I mean, absolutely is possible. Matt Golden's a deep threat too. But I think if you're going to draft a receiver, you're going to want him to be more so tall. Like, you're going to want, your dream pick would be like Tetron McMillan, right? Like, that'd be kind of the Christian Watson role. But if you want to wait, there are talents down the board that I think could work really well in your favor. I'm just going to say this right now. If you pick up Dante Thornton, I think you guys end up getting a superstar. This is like Dante Thornton Jr. just hasn't had, like, I mean, look at this. He hasn't even, I guess it's over 1,000 yards on his career. But this dude has been an absolute beast. He's flying probably in the 4.3s. So you're going to potentially get him. 2 drops gives a 7.1% rate, by the way. That's so funny. And I think the reason they don't have a dot is because of the fact that he didn't have enough catches. Like 26 receptions, 2 drops. Yeah, I get it. And 75% contested catch rate, probably 4 targets, and ended up getting 3 of them. So let's not like focus on that. But Dante Thornton is so freaking good, and he has those 100-yard games. I'm not taking him here, but I'm saying, hey, at 87, or maybe we could trade up to the end of the first. Not a bad idea, because he is a perfect Christian Watson replacement slash, partner. You can never go wrong with having 2 guys who are 6'5" who can fly, right? Like, Dante Thornton's fun as hell, man. But I digress. Let's get back to actually the pick that matters, which is right now, do we want to potentially move up with the team to select Matt Golden or Emeka Egbuka over the Texans? And that's going to be the same debate I have at the next pick. So we definitely could wait one spot. And I do think we're not going to have any buyers here. And also, I don't know if the Green Bay Packers are going to be moving out in when they are currently having the draft in Green Bay. I don't know why that was so tough for me to say. But I do think there's a couple positions to address. You could go interior offensive line here with Kelvin Banks. At this point, like, why not, right? But I will say, where do they have him on here? Damn. They don't even have... So the other Texas tackle, Logan Brown, I honestly could see him really working here. I really could. Not at this pick, but again, I don't know why I'm pretty much doing a Packers 7-round mock draft while I'm talking to you. By the way, the graphics of those are done. So, or at least the thumbnails and everything. So I'm super excited. We're going to be jumping into those real soon. But I digress. Edge rusher, defensive interior. To be fair, Kenneth Grant. You talk about Daryl Slayton, 400 reps. You also talk about the fact that Devontae Wyatt might not be there for the long run. Kenneth Grant can play a multitude of those roles. Let's stick and pick. Let's have a good time. And also, it gives the Vikings a little bit more pause because, hey, you got Kelvin Banks available to play our guard role. I'm just a little bit concerned, though, because I do think Kelvin Banks is a bit overrated. I have an 88-minute tackle video out on it, so feel free to go check that out. It has a little bit more of an explanation. He is still a very solid player in my tackle number 7, and it's a close group, all right? So it's like, let's not try to say, like, it's like, oh, it's astronomical. No, this is a very, very good group. And so for Minnesota, I do think our goal is to trade back and then still end up getting proper amount of or proper capital for being able to address our corner position. But Siobhan Ravel's here. I would probably take him within the next few, at least. I mean, I do think it's very reasonable that he goes within that range. And I trade back with the Vikings so often, which, to be fair, you guys are active movers in the draft. I'm going to go after Siobhan Ravel here. You do need boundary corner help. He looks great in purple and yellow. And he's somebody that's looked at very, very highly. So I'm excited to give him that shot. At 25 for the Houston Texans, you got Emeka Egbuka and Kelvin Banks here. It's actually fucking ridiculous. Like ridiculous. I'm making a small trade here because we're still going to snipe Emeka Egbuka, but I think the Rams would be a key target to select Kelvin Banks. And I did this before. I'm moving up with the Baltimore Ravens. I really do like this opportunity because the Texans also, you can end up bolstering some picks on day 3. And so I'm looking at something in that 160 plus range because 120 was the range for the mid first. I think like 170, and maybe you could end up tossing in like a future pick here, maybe do 213 as well. But I think that's going to be requisite. If I'm the Texans, I'm taking that. It's free picks, free real estate. We're moving up with the Ravens to select Kelvin Banks. They're the type that always goes after best player available too. You're going to kick them to guard. Why the hell not? For the Rams at 26, this is a great position to be in because, I mean, you guys are sitting pretty, and there's so many teams that want to move up for Emeka Egbuka or Matt Golden at this point. And 2 of those teams I see having draft capital, but one of them's in the NFC, so I don't really want to arm them. I'm looking at the Bills here, and the Bills getting Matt Golden gets me excited. It gets me going. And I want to be able to dictate. Like, I'm not going to have the Bills move up for Emeka Egbuka this time, okay? How about that? How about that? So 25 to 27 was like 170 range. I think this one will be more requisite at that 130 range, which it kind of makes sense. I mean, 2 spots in the mid first, 4 spots here. I'd be happy if I'm the Rams as well. Technically speaking, we could go 62 and then give them 190, but let's just be happy. Let's be happy. Don't worry, be happy. Moved up with the Bills, and actually, I think Emeka Egbuka is great for this team. I'm going to change it up because I know you guys don't want Emeka Egbuka as much as I want Emeka. I really want to, because I'm also jumping the Commanders here. That's the big one. I already know wide receivers going here, but I also know that there's also one there. I'm going Matt Golden out of Texas to be able to add that deep threat ability there for Josh Allen. 27 for the Texans, already kind of telegraphed exactly what I'm doing. We're going to Emeka Egbuka here to give him back to C.J. Stroud. And your receiving core needs it. Emeka Egbuka is going to be a big upgrade. You got some extra picks on top of it. At number 28, we have the Detroit Lions. And good players across the board. I don't think you can pass up Nick Gordon at this point. Just too high floor, too valuable, too damn good. Just good players in this class, man. That's just good players are going to fall. At 29 for the Commanders, Nick Gordon would have been the dream. We just kind of sniped all 3 of the players I would have loved at this spot. So I am actually looking to potentially move back. And to be fair, JT Tuimoloau's here and Mike Green. I can't say no to JT Tuimoloau at this point. This guy deserves to be a first-round pick. Everybody who watches him knows and loves him for it. Like, he is just so damn good. 15 sacks as well. Finally had his breakout year. This guy's a first-round pick, man. And he's going to go to Philly if he doesn't go here. So we're going to go after JT Tuimoloau. At 30 for the Los Angeles Rams, could even curveball and go Mike Green at this point. But I do think this is the prime opportunity to go after corner. I do think that Jahdae Barron could just be too good to pass on, but I worry about his scheme specificity and just being pretty much purely off zone coverage, to where I'd want to look at Trey Amos and Azariah Thomas. I know a lot of you love Azariah to this team. I love Azariah to this team. I mean, literally on an entire year, he allowed 141 yards and got a pick. I mean, like, that's incredible. I got to see Azariah in person as well. Like, my own eyeballs saw Azariah Thomas here at SMU, voice crack. And I think he's going to be a first-round pick. He's going to test out incredibly well. There's a lot of teams that are looking for corner, no real way to move back. I'm going to stick my flag into the ground and go after my number 16 player in the class, Azariah Thomas, out of Florida State. For those of y'all who are wondering, 6'2", 198. He will also run in the 4'3" to 4'4" range. 31, Philly. Mike Green's here. Shamar Stewart's here. I don't think there's really a need to move back. And I think Mike Green's just the perfect fit. Freaky athlete. I just know Vic Fangio is going to love that. It's like, let's just not play games. It's a really good pick. And at number 32 and ending off this mock draft, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers, who moved back. And yeah, we lost out on some receiver talent, but we still could go defensive back. We still could go defensive interior. I mean, look at this. Walter Nolan's available, guys. Like, Walter Nolan would be a great pick at this point. I could have won it for the Eagles, but I do think Mike Green is just, it's the perfect pick for Philly. So I do think Walter Nolan's probably going to be my pick here. It's like a very big dark horse pick, but right now, and if you're a Steelers fan, you'll understand this. Like, our defense is pretty heavily weighed on Cam Hayward's success. Like, if he was out of there, we would lose noticeably more games. We need to have some form of succession plan in place, and Walter Nolan at this point makes a lot of sense. Corner 2 absolutely does as well. I just don't know if we're going to take it at 32. And I've taken Trey Amos to us so many times. Jahdae Barron, I think, is more of a slot, sub 6 foot, What is he, sub 200 pounds as well? Or he's sub 6 foot, 200 pounds, short arms. Like, good player, great player. But I just don't think he solves what we are looking for. And it would be down to Trey Amos, Darian Porter, who is older, but also is less experienced. So it would be Trey Amos as well. And so we're going to go to Ole Miss, basically. Trey Amos, Walter Nolan. I think that we have a chance in the third round of sniping some defensive interior talent. But dude, the defensive interior talent, as much as everybody wants to like hop on it and just absolutely glaze it, there's a lot of them that returned. DeMonte Capehart, who I would have wanted for us in like the third round, would have returned. We have 2 second-round picks there. Like, I do think the defensive interior class might thin out quicker than the corner class at that rate. So we're going to go Walter Nolan and throw that curveball in there and just get a really solid player coming off a great year. That's going to be the video. Stay tuned tomorrow for rounds 2 and 3. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I love you. See you on the far side.